Let's start with Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. This game is seriously underrated and deserves way more love. Imagine an open-world action game set in the bustling streets of Hong Kong, where you play as an undercover cop tangled up in the city's dangerous criminal underworld. It's like GTA, but with a unique twist that really sets it apart. And let's not forget the driving. Sleeping Dogs has some of the most fun driving mechanics out there. It's super arcadey, and you can do crazy stunts, hijack cars on the go, and even ram other cars off the road. There's something so satisfying about zooming through the city, dodging traffic, and knowing you can hop out at any time to start a fistfight. The city is alive with neon lights, crowded markets, and tons of little side activities that make it feel so authentic. You can go sing karaoke. Yes, karaoke. Try your luck at street races, or just cruise around and soak in the atmosphere. The developers did a fantastic job capturing the vibe of Hong Kong, and it's a city you actually want to explore. One of the best parts of Sleeping Dogs is the hand-to-hand combat. It's like a martial arts movie come to life. You're throwing punches, countering moves, and using your environment in the coolest ways. You can slam enemies into fish tanks, toss them off balconies, and even use random objects around you to gain the upper hand. So, if you're into action games with a great story and a city that feels alive and vibrant, Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition is absolutely worth checking out. Next we have The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. From the very beginning, you're dropped into this massive open world, and it's completely up to you what to do next. No hand-holding, no strict path, just pure, unfiltered exploration. One of the coolest things about Breath of the Wild is the sense of freedom. You see a mountain way off in the distance? You can climb it. You spot a random little forest on your way to a shrine? Go explore it. You might find a secret or even stumble on a side quest. And the game rewards you for being curious. Everywhere you go, there's something hidden, some surprise, some little detail that makes you feel like the developers thought of everything. And speaking of surprises, the physics and chemistry systems in this game are unreal. You can use the environment to solve puzzles in ways that feel totally unique to you. Like, if you're clever enough, you can create crazy solutions to puzzles that don't even feel right. But the game encourages that. You can even use metal weapons to attract lightning during storms or set grass on fire to create updrafts for your glider. It's like a sandbox that's just begging you to mess around and get creative. And let's not forget the combat. It's challenging, but in a really rewarding way. You don't just mindlessly hack and slash. You need to time your dodges, be aware of your surroundings, and think about your strategy. The weapon durability system is a hot topic, but honestly, it adds to that survival feel. You're encouraged to experiment with different weapons and tactics, which keeps things interesting. Next, we have Chivalry 2. It's one of those games that makes you feel like you're living out an epic battle scene from a medieval movie. Swords, shields, battle cries, it's all here. The first time I jumped in, I honestly didn't know what to expect. But within minutes, I was charging across a battlefield, screaming alongside other players, and it was just wild. The game really nails that feeling of being right in the middle of an all-out medieval brawl. And yeah, you might end up accidentally smacking a teammate. It happens, but that's just part of the chaos. What's cool is how each match has objectives, so it's not just a mindless hack and slash. You're pushing through enemy lines, defending castles, burning down villages. Each round feels like this mini-story playing out, where you really feel like you're fighting for your team. Sometimes it's about brute force, and other times it's about using strategy. Whether you're sneaking around to flank the enemy or holding the line with your teammates. Plus, there are different classes to mess around with. If you're feeling like a tank, go for a knight with heavy armor and a big old shield. Want to be a sneaky archer who snipes from a distance? There's a class for that too. Each one brings a different flavor to the battle, and it's fun to mix things up and see what you like best. Personally, I love being the guy in the heavy armor with a huge hammer, just charging through crowds. And the best part? It never takes itself too seriously. You can tell the game is all about having a good time. It's chaotic, but in the best possible way, where every match feels like a blend of serious combat and just plain ridiculousness. Chivalry 2 is 100% worth checking out. Next we have Resident Evil 7. One of the coolest things about the game is how immersive it feels. They went with a first-person perspective, which, let me tell you, makes everything so much scarier. It's like you're in the middle of a horror movie, and you're the main character. And they nailed that gritty, creepy vibe. The sound design is just incredible, with creaky floors, distant footsteps, and other little sounds that keep you on edge. It really pulls you into the experience. You're exploring this creepy, run-down mansion, and right away, you can feel the game practically daring you to go deeper. And trust me, every corner you turn is filled with suspense. It's got that classic, what's around the next corner feel, where you're bracing yourself for something terrifying. I found myself holding my breath more than a few times. Combat-wise, it's got that classic Resident Evil survival feel. You're not overloaded with ammo, so every bullet counts, and you have to make careful decisions. It's a nice balance of horror and action, where you're fighting to survive, but still constantly feeling vulnerable. And the enemies? Let's just say they're some of the creepiest in the series. The puzzles are a fun throwback too. They're clever, without being overwhelming, and they add that classic Resident Evil touch to the game. You're searching for keys, unlocking doors, and solving riddles, which all just adds to the sense of discovery and dread. And honestly, the Baker family. They are some of the most memorable characters in horror gaming. Period. Each encounter with them is just nerve-wracking, and you never know what they'll do next. It's like they're always one step ahead of you. Next we have Horizon Forbidden West. If you enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn, or just love the idea of exploring a stunning post-apocalyptic world with robotic creatures, this game is everything. It takes what made the first game so special and cranks it up even further. First off, the world is absolutely breathtaking. We're talking lush forests, sweeping deserts, misty mountains, and mysterious ruins, all packed with color and life. Every time you step into a new area, it feels like you're on an epic journey, and you can just feel the love that went into designing this world. It's one of those games where you'll find yourself stopping just to admire the views. The combat is even more intense than before. You're still going up against these awesome robotic creatures, but this time, there's a lot more variety in how you can approach each encounter. You can try different strategies, depending on the creature type, use traps, experiment with elemental effects, or even override certain machines to turn them into allies. It makes every fight feel unique, especially since the machines have such varied designs and behaviors. Oh, and the underwater sections? They're gorgeous, and actually add a whole new layer to the game. Now, diving into lakes and exploring submerged ruins is part of the adventure, and it's so well done. It makes the world feel even bigger and more dynamic, because you're not just stuck on land anymore. Horizon Forbidden West is a perfect mix of action, exploration, and storytelling. It's one of those games where you can spend hours just getting lost in side quests and exploring. Next we have Fallout 76. I know this game got quite a bit of heat when it first came out, but after all the updates and expansions, it's a totally different experience now. Trust me. Bethesda really put in the work here, and it shows. First off, if you're into Fallout for the whole post-apocalyptic vibe, Fallout 76 still nails that perfectly. You're out there exploring the ruins of West Virginia, which is way more beautiful than I expected in an end-of-the-world kind of way. The landscapes are huge and varied, with misty forests, eerie bogs, and even mountainous areas where you'll get a stunning view of the Wasteland. Honestly, the setting is a character in itself. And yes, it's multiplayer, meaning you'll run into other players as you explore. But don't worry, it's not like some chaotic battle royale or anything. You can still choose to play mostly on your own, focus on your story quests, or even just wander around, soaking in the atmosphere. But having others around adds this cool element of unpredictability, like maybe you're all just hanging out around a campfire, or someone pops up to trade supplies. It makes the world feel more alive, which is pretty rare in the Fallout series. Speaking of camps, let's talk camp building, which might be one of my favorite parts of the game. You can set up your own little homestead anywhere in the wilderness, and then customize it however you want. I mean, some people have made full-on mansions out there, and I'm over here just trying to get my campfire going. It's like a mix of Fallout survival with Sims creativity. So yeah, if you wrote Fallout 76 off at launch, I'd say give it another shot. Next we have Mass Effect Legendary Edition. If you haven't played the Mass Effect series yet, you're in for a serious treat. And if you have, well, this remastered edition is the perfect excuse to dive back into one of the most iconic sci-fi RPGs out there. Right from the start, the game just grabs you. You're Commander Shepard, and your choices shape the entire galaxy. The stakes feel huge, but what's cool is that you're never just watching the story happen. You're actively making choices that change everything. And I mean everything from little side stories to major plot twists. It's one of those games where you actually feel the weight of your decisions. And that's rare. And the galaxy? It's incredible. You're exploring different planets, seeing all these unique alien cultures, and uncovering a rich sci-fi world with every mission. It's like living in your own sci-fi epic, from the action-packed battles to the quiet moments of exploration. The Legendary Edition really brings this world to life too, with upgraded visuals that make each planet and environment feel fresh, vibrant, and epic in scale. The combat is a blast too. Whether you're going full biotic powers or charging in guns blazing, there's a style that fits however you want to play. And with all the upgrades and tweaks in this edition, it feels smoother than ever, especially in the first game, which has been brought up to speed with the later ones. Plus, the Legendary Edition has smoothed out some of the rough edges, making it even easier for new players to jump in and get the full experience. It's got everything: epic space battles and a world that just feels alive. Next we have Portal 2, one of the smartest, funniest, and most satisfying games out there. I mean, if you've ever wondered what it's like to solve complex puzzles while being gently or not so gently insulted by an AI, this is the game to play. From the moment you wake up, you know you're in for a unique experience. You play as Chell, this silent character stuck in a strange, abandoned science facility, and your main tool is this incredible portal gun. With it, you can create 2 connected portals on certain surfaces, letting you move through them in ways that feel almost magical. The whole concept of thinking with portals is amazing because it forces you to look at puzzles in a totally different way. What I love about Portal 2 is how it gradually ramps up the challenge. At first, it's simple stuff, figuring out where to place portals to get from point A to point B. But then they throw in all these wild mechanics like tractor beams, light bridges, and these crazy gels that speed you up or make you bounce. It's like each level is teaching you to think bigger, get more creative, and really push the limits of what's possible with just portals. The best part, though, has to be the co-op mode. Portal 2 lets you team up with a friend, and it's an absolute blast. You play as 2 adorable robots, and the puzzles are designed around the idea of working together. It's hilarious, challenging, and such a great way to test your teamwork. If you're into smart puzzles and a game that constantly surprises you, Portal 2 is an absolute must-play. It's not just a puzzle game. Next we have State of Decay 2. This game really knows how to make you feel like you're in a zombie apocalypse. It's not just about surviving day to day. It's about building a life in a world that's gone to hell. It's got action, strategy, and a little bit of that community building feel that makes it unique. So, right off the bat, the game drops you into this open world full of zombies, and it's up to you to find survivors, scavenge supplies, and build a community that can actually stand a chance. What's cool is that every survivor has their own skills, strengths, and even weaknesses, so it feels like you're working with real people. You're not just collecting NPCs, you're creating a team with their own stories and personalities. And the best part? It's super unpredictable. You might think you have things under control, and then, suddenly, there's a horde of zombies at your base, or your best scavenger is out on a mission and doesn't come back right away. It keeps you on your toes in the best way possible. You've got to manage food, medical supplies, and even morale. If someone's unhappy or stressed, it can really throw the whole community into chaos. The base building aspect is another standout feature. You're not just finding a spot and settling in. You're creating a place to live and thrive. You get to decide where to put things like gardens, watchtowers, and beds, and those choices actually matter. Building up your base is one of those things that feels genuinely rewarding because it's not just for show, it impacts how well your group survives. Next we have Detroit Become Human. It's one of those games where you're not just watching a story play out, you're actually shaping it. Your choices matter, and I mean really matter. The choices aren't always easy either. Sometimes you're like, what's the right choice here? And there's no clear answer. It's all about what you value, and that affects the relationships you build and the path you take. There's this branching storyline, so the game reacts to your choices in a way that feels organic. Each playthrough can be so different, and it's wild seeing how even small decisions can snowball into something huge later on. You play as 3 different androids, each with their own story, and the game does an amazing job of making you care about each one. You feel invested in their struggles, their choices, and what they want for their lives. The best part for me was the emotional weight. The game digs into some pretty deep themes: freedom, empathy, what it means to be human. And because it's so interactive, it really makes you think about what you do in these situations. By the end, you're not just playing a game, you're reflecting on your own beliefs and choices, which is pretty rare for a video game. And Detroit doesn't shy away from tension either. There are moments where you're genuinely on the edge of your seat, trying to make quick decisions that could totally change everything. And the stakes are high because, things can go wrong in big ways if you make a wrong call. So, yeah, Detroit Become Human is perfect if you're into games that let you dig into a story deeply, and that give you control over what happens. It's genuinely unforgettable.